Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is OctoMan from OctoManGames.com, and today I want to show you my process on my new project, which I want to release on Steam and somewhere else, probably as well, especially maybe on itch.io or any other kind of online platform I might choose to. Well, but basically I want to put the content or the game itself, I want to try to put it on Steam so I learn about everything I need to know about Steam itself, what are the costs and so on and so forth, so I can make tutorials for you. But before I can do that, I absolutely have to create a good title, a full playable game, or at least a demo, so I can go through all the necessary steps. I'm gonna have a bunch of footage to show in the end and so on and so forth. So first of all, I needed to decide to drive you in what type of game do I want to produce or create, and I'm rather unhappy about that. All these rather old rail shooters are not available anymore or only on VR, and I don't want to create a VR game. I want to create a little arcade style game where, well, which is type of Virtua Cop. You might know that already, which has been released in the 90s, I believe, 1990s, on Sega Saturn. So where everybody could basically have you had a gun and then you shoot down enemies. You don't see your character. It's more like a first-person shooter, but it's on a rail. So the rail is basically where you're gonna move from waypoint A to waypoint B, then hordes of enemies are going to come across, and then you shoot down all the enemies or get hit on your own. Once you have no lives left, of course, the game is over. You're gonna get your score and you can try again. Also, each of them games gonna have some end boss scenario, let's say. There were in total 3 full levels to play, so a beginner, a medium, and some expert or something similar. And you could also choose how difficult you want the game to be at. And so it didn't have much of a story. It was more like, hey, you are a cop, you need to go there because there's something evil happening, and then you go through the actual scenarios, you're gonna get leaded to certain points in a map, in a 3D world, where you had to shoot down things and then you go forward. You can also have some pickups here, so maybe you get some different guns for a certain amount of time, for example, or you can also pick up some lives there, maybe buried somewhere, or maybe they're in a chest or in a, let's say, a crate, or maybe somewhere else. There have been explosives and all the other good stuff, so in the end, rather interesting gameplay. Other rail shooters of that type have been Time Crisis, for example, and several other ones, where you literally stay on a rail and you're gonna get chased by something and then you shoot whatever down it has to be, and so on and so forth. So there are a bunch of subtypes of rail shooters, and so it depends always on how you gonna see them. There was also one of the horror genre called House of the Dead, I believe, where you basically shoot down zombies which are coming from everywhere and nowhere, and you're gonna shoot them down. That had also light gun support, so it was released on the Dreamcast, I believe, and also in a late 90s, I believe, 1990s. And so, well, there are a bunch of various things, and they're gonna tell a story. You're gonna do it through certain actions. You can also go this way or go that way. So there are a bunch of things, but you're still on this rail. So basically, you always move on that. So I wanted to take this idea and put this into a rather simple scenario in the first place, and I'm gonna show you some process stuff in between. But what did I start with is actually just this first page over here, which is my, let's say, roadmap. What do I actually need? I wanted to make sure that I put my core features on a certain spot, so I know exactly what is the absolutely core necessary content I want to use and I have to use and create before I can make a full game out of it. So it is not about the graphics, it's not about the sounds and music and cutscenes and stuff like that. Even that is going to become later on interesting, but in the first place, I want to show you what I really did in the first place to get this thing running. So when you start with a certain game or type of a game, maybe something you want to gonna take a look into, make a mind map like that. It's super simple. What is the basic of the game loop? I have a course about game loops and so on and so forth. You can check this out on my Udemy account, there's going to be one of how to mind map that things, how to get your core ideas, how to put them all together and stuff. So feel free to check out this course about this topic. So anyways, what you want to do is you want to first off define what's your basic game loop. And what I did, I took my basic ideas, so the Railshooter on Virtua Cop, and I say, okay, what do I really need? I need to anyhow position the camp somewhere in my 3D world, in my 3D space. And once I reach a certain point, I want to spawn some enemies. And if I have no lives left, of course, the game is over. And if I'm not, then I need to shoot down the enemy. So basically super easy things, right? So you can nail this down. If all of them have been destroyed, I'm gonna move to the next position. So in the camp position things, I just need to have something like a route or a node or position or something. I need an end of a route, basically the last one, which I can maybe fulfill with a bus node or something similar. And if I have not reached the end of the route, of course, I need to go and see when I have reached the next position, I want to do the spawn enemies thing. So basically this piece is going to be that piece. So what that is basically, what that does mean is basically I'm going to have fixed positions and I have possible enemies to come in, and also some hostiles are going to be able, like possible non-enemies, right? And I'm going to define based on some kind of time-based action anyhow, where to spawn, how to spawn, what they should do, or what an enemy should do. But in this particular case, I just wanted to make sure, okay, I need to keep track on how many are there and so on. So all the enemies destroyed. So, and if they are all destroyed after all this time-based action, basically, I'm gonna have to have a timeline anyhow. I'm gonna reposition the camp. So basically go back to the second step over here, the camp positioning, or basically it's the first step in this case. Go back, go to the next point, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, it's a loop. It's still doing the same thing. I just need to go one step further, or one step to the next. Next one is, I want to know what, well, type of enemies do we got and what possible actions they can do. Currently, they have 3 actions, which they perform one after another. I'm going to show everything once I'm done here. So I wanted to maybe I can do different actions to give it a bit more flexible game flow, but the old rail shooters all have to have the same thing, so you can learn, so you can in the next round you're going to play, because you might lose one or the other round if it is too hard or too easy or whatever. You might want to learn what is the next action happening at what certain kind of time frame or in some kind of interval. So they're gonna do I need to have something, a closing circle, which is showing the next attack. So how big that interval is before they do the attack. And on boss, of course, I'm gonna have a multiple HP. Otherwise, normal enemies gonna have just one single HP point. So one shot anywhere, it doesn't matter if it is a foot or a head or wherever, I'm gonna, destroy the enemy. So super simple things. And so basically, this is what I also have already built in. So once again, I'm gonna show some footage about this in a moment. And I wanted to have myself one extra challenge to maybe give it a bit more of a twist. And so currently I think about a more, let's say, flexible game flow. And this is where probably this possible entry actions are going to come in place, just to be, or maybe enemy types, or maybe randomized shot intervals. So all of that is going to be super interesting over here, and this is what I actually started with for my project here. So then I decided to create this closing circle, some of these graphics, a little, let's say, to reload things like this drum or magazine drum or whatever that's called, a bullet kind of a thing, and some crosshair. This is for particle effects, like whenever I shoot something, I'm gonna create some particle. Also, I decided to start with some, let's say, basic idea of how a logo of this game could be, but that was not in the first place. This is way later on, basically, or was way later on happening. I'm gonna show you some footage right now. I'm gonna let you know what this is about. So this is pre-recorded footage. Why? Because on the flow, or meanwhile I created that thing, I decided to add up onto this. I can explain what I have done so far, and what I can also do with that, I can show you. And if you have joined my Discord, link down in the description, if you want to join me on my Discord to where everybody else is going to hanging out, you would have seen this probably already. And if you're interested into, going there and join us, well, feel free to do so. Once again, the link is down below in the description. So what do I start with? I needed to have a system where I can position and reposition the camera inside my scene. I needed to have some kind of a zoom effect. As you can see, the camera is moving to one and then the next enemy. I'm gonna destroy these enemies here in the very first place after a certain amount of time. So I know, okay, this waypoint is over. So everything is done over there. So I just wanted to have the camera positioning in the very first place up over here. So the next step is basically getting a crosshair into play, and I also started to animate my little capsules, give them some, something. I wanted to make sure that the crosshair stays on screen, and I couldn't shoot at this point. I just had to have a system where I can spawn enemies at certain points, let them go to a certain position, get them there, let's say aim time, which in this case was like 3 seconds or something, and then I wanted to let them go back to somewhere else and leave the scene, so I can count that. I can make sure I'm gonna see that. So next one is I added some kill enemies, I could now shoot them. And I wanted to make sure that they fall down backwards and then they are going to stay there. So I was able to animate even that rather quick. And you can do this in a 3D software. You can do this directly in Unity. That's totally up to you. So as you can see, that's a bunch of work already. So when you're going to start with things or work with things, then you want to block out some scenarios and see how it fits and how it works in the end. So I have a bunch of more content over here. So I have now implemented this little drum over here. I increased the walking speeds of these guys. So just to see from which directions can I put things and how can I put or bring enemies also on top of things. So I wanted to make sure that there are a bunch of enemies are able to join the scene and spawn somewhere, get into play and try to hit you down. So all of that on one single spawn point. And that was a pretty interesting approach already. And as you can see, the drum does not really, come into play at this point because it didn't really make any sense to have it here already. But you can see a pretty good, kind of game flow already. And the camera kind of works a bit, let's say, stucky here and there. But I'm gonna keep on going and work with that at the first place. So I have something at least. So next one is about, well, I don't know. I believe it's about a new shader I created. No. I believe that's just another testing video over here, but I created a shader in the next place. Oh no, the first one was these closing circles. So as you can tell, these closing circles are showing you whenever they go full down. As you can see, also some particle effects are already in place. So if I hit something, I'm gonna have an orange particle, and if I hit an enemy or something, then I gonna have also a blue something. So the circles show when the enemy is going to actually shoot, or whenever they are fully aimed, let's say. And this is where you're gonna have to be quick enough to get rid of them. So also you can see I have now this walking from the one scene to the next, or from one camera position to the next at the very end of this video in place. So that also works after everybody is, getting rid of. So next one is, well, the stuff you already have seen, but this time I added the shader. As you can see, it actually gets rid of the actual graphics or the enemies, like from top to bottom. This dissolve shader is going to show or actually make them disappear. So that's a rather good approach already, where I wanted to make sure that I get rid of the enemies like after a certain amount of time, reducing just the height of this dissolve shader over there. There are a bunch of tutorials you can also bring or take a look into. If you want to know exactly how I did it, well then let me know, then I'm gonna explain it to you and make a video about it. So, and my last video is about, well, how did I structure all of that? Right now, as you can see, I'm pointing to those blue dots, and the blue dots in the scene are going to be, well, my actual waypoints or waypoint positions. And so I wrote a little helper for me in which I can, inside the scene, inside the actual editor time, I can flip between, like, I'm using a shortcut for that. That's why it's so quick. I can use a shortcut to see or to navigate between them points. So for each point in the scene, I'm able to see what is the camera view at this certain point, because it also takes care of the rotation of the actual waypoint. And so I can plan or can see, is that a good view for the game scene in itself? So when I am at a certain special position over here, is there enough room to spawn enemies? Where can they come from? Do they have to be a bunch, like a lot? Or do I just reduce maybe for a certain scene? Maybe I only put like 4 or 3 enemies instead of like 10 or 8 or whatever. Like, you know, so I can keep track of that, see what is the rotation, and so I can plan ahead exactly what's going on. The red, green, and the yellow ones are my spawn points. So basically they have some little route system on them as well. And all of that is basically using the nav mesh. So I can bring my enemies to, or like using this nav mesh, and my main character is also using the nav mesh, is moving in from one point to another using the nav mesh agent, basically, or the nav mesh, yeah, walkable. So after I have had done that, there is a bunch of more to come soon. So because I want to release a game with this topic, I want to make it a bit more, let's say, appealing in the end. Meanwhile, I just created this logo over here, so I'm not quite sure about the name yet, and it doesn't really matter as long as you have, like, say, a working title. That's more than enough, more than you need, basically, to create a first prototype over here. If you like this actual kind of type of videos of what I do and so on and so forth, or if you have any questions about what, how did I do this, how did I do that, feel free to ask me down below in the description, or come to my Discord channel so I can, let's say, quicker explain on things, and maybe you're gonna be able to keep on track what is happening with my game project over here. So the next video might be more like a trailer video, because I have so many things over here. Also in Discord, I was sharing about other little things I came across meanwhile, by how to create a story the easy way, let's say. So basically, what is the game about, and let somebody else write the story for your, let's say, first level, and so on and so forth. So also that leads to more and more content, and so this keeps me like working on this. The new scene will look even fuller and stuff like that. In my next video, I'm gonna show off a bit more, and maybe also have some, you know, game footage already, even more like this one. I can just tell you at the moment, the first level is already like 3 to 4 minutes long, just moving through the complete scene. So once again, if you're interested into that, let me know. Sum up this video. Don't forget to join the channel if you haven't already. Like, subscribe to it so you keep on track and keep on updated. And don't forget to ring the bell or hit the bell icon down below as well. So thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video, and talk to you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.